The Wild Wild West. The conference over the past 2 decades or so that's fielded some of the greatest teams of this generation, and as an annual bloodbath of the league's elite, you can never underestimate the depth that this conference has in any given year. Typically, 10 or so teams have legitimate playoff hopes, but only few of them separate themselves from the pack as true title contenders. There are obvious picks in every given year like Los Angeles Lakers and Los Angeles Clippers this year, but just after 30 games, it appears that the Utah Jazz have catapulted themselves in that realm and don't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. But before we head into how dominant the Utah Jazz have been thus far, be sure to leave a like on this video. It only takes a second of your time but makes a massive difference. And if you end up enjoying this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel. To say that the Utah Jazz have been dominant is an understatement. 28 games in, they've won 19 of their last 20 games, and 17 of those 19 wins have been by double digits. But just as impressive are the teams that have been victims of all this winning. They blew away the Milwaukee Bucks, who had won 5 of their last 6 games heading into that game. They blew away a fully healthy Miami Heat team who had won 4 straight heading into that game. They destroyed the Dallas Mavericks back-to-back, even though Donovan Mitchell didn't play in either of those games. And they recently beat the Celtics and Pacers by double digits. And on top of this, they're 4th in offensive rating and 2nd in defensive rating. And in the NBA, they're 1st in net rating and had the best overall record as well. With respect to how good they've been thus far, I'm just going to give you the SparkNotes version because it isn't the main topic of discussion of this video. But simply stated, the Mike Conley that the Jazz acquired 2 summers ago has finally arrived. Joe Ingles is having a bounce-back season despite having a down year last year. Royce O'Neal remains underrated and is performing well. Derek Favors is one of the better backup bigs in the league. Jordan Clarkson remains one of the best spark plugs off the bench. Bogdanovich and Rudy Gobert have been healthy to start the season, and Donovan Mitchell continues to be great. And let's not forget that Quinn Snyder is a good coach, and that 7 of the guys on this team are shooting at least 38% from 3. But now, let's head into the main question to be answered in this video. Are the Utah Jazz contenders, or are they pretenders? Are they the 2015 Hawks, or are they the 2015 Warriors? The reason I mentioned the 2015 Hawks is because they're the epitome of a pretender whose regular season success unjustly made the people to believe that they could actually win the Eastern Conference. People will say that I'm downplaying that Atlanta Hawks team solely because they had 4 All-Stars and because they won 60 games. But well, first of all, none of those guys even sniffed All-NBA, neither were they in the same realm as any of the guys who made All-NBA third team that year, outside potentially DeAndre Jordan. Also, all 4 of those All-Stars were reserves, who were handpicked by the coaches solely because the Hawks had the best record in the East at that time. Because if you didn't know, coaches actually put an excellence on winning when it comes to picking reserves, because as coaches, obviously the highest priority is winning. That's why Bradley Beal didn't make the All-Star team last year, and it's the reason why Kyle Korver, for some reason, made the All-Star team that year. And he only made it because he was an injury replacement for Dwayne Wade. The point of discussing the 2015 Hawks isn't to somehow downplay LeBron's accomplishment of sweeping them in the conference finals without Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving playing on only one leg for 2 games. The actual point of bringing them up was to set the bar of what a pretender actually is. That Hawks team was a good pool of players like Horford, Millsap, Teague, Korver, DeMar Carroll, etc., but they didn't have what it took to be a contender. They didn't have a go-to guy where you can say, get us a bucket when the offense slows down and when their offense is stalling in the playoffs. They didn't have a ceiling-raising superstar, which is pretty much the formula to win a championship for the past how many so years. And also, they didn't have a coach like Larry Brown, Carlisle, or Popovich who can make adjustments and lead men to advance in the playoffs. Moreover, I don't depict the Utah Jazz as some derivative of the 2015 Hawks. Even though I do have the Lakers coming out of the Western Conference if they're fully healthy, I do believe that the Utah Jazz are a serious threat for the Western Conference Finals, especially given the fact that if they hold on to the first seed, we're bound to have a Lakers-Clippers second-round matchup. The Jazz do have a go-to guy in Donovan Mitchell when needed, who is significantly better than anyone from that Atlanta Hawks team, and as someone who has had even good to even great playoff performances over the past 3 seasons. The Jazz are a very good team at home, and having an elite defense is so advantageous because defense does travel in the playoffs, regardless of the backdrop of the arena. And additionally, chemistry is not a problem for this team as everyone knows their role, and they just have such a deep squad. The only problems I do have with this Utah Jazz team come playoff time are Rudy Gobert's inability to switch onto the perimeter and the need for Donovan Mitchell to maintain a superstar level of play throughout the playoffs in order for them to have realistic championship hopes. The first point about Gobert is pretty self-explanatory, but I do want to expand upon Mitchell's need to have that great performances in order for them to have realistic championship hopes. Depth obviously matters in the playoffs, and it is a key factor into one team winning a championship. But don't be fooled in claiming that it should be the sole reason for believing in the Jazz to win the NBA Finals. Because we've been proven time and time again, like with that Hawks team and with those Raptors teams before and after Kawhi, that you need a big time player to step up when the role players aren't stepping up in the playoffs. The reason why we've seen LeBron beat the 2015 Hawks and the 2018 Raptors come playoff time with the limited supporting cast, outside the fact that he's amazing, is because the playoffs are a whole different ballgame. But luckily for the Jazz, I don't feel that Donovan Mitchell is some sort of pseudo-performer in the playoffs. He was great in the bubble last year, and prior to that, he's been a solid playoff performer to say the least. It's unrealistic to expect the performances from the bubble last year to continue for Donovan Mitchell, but if the Jazz want to take the next step, he has to be as good as he can be. Overall, the Utah Jazz have been extremely dominant thus far, and maintaining the number 1 seed is their best route to the Western Conference Finals in a very tough conference. Moreover, as the 2020 Lakers reminded us, you can only go as far as your best players can take you. And with that being said, that's it for the video. Comment down below whether you think the Jazz are actually title contenders or if you think they're pretenders. And if you haven't already, be sure to leave a like on the video and feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching and stay tuned.